We had never really considered going on a mission trip. For us, mission trips were for super Christians that went and did those kind of things, and we hadn't even really sought it out. We got an email from Jason encouraging people to take some open slots on the compassion trip. We felt like that was an invitation, and we said, yes, Lord. And we just did it. And he has taken that and given us another trip and deepened relationships with the people that we go to visit there.
I think the beauty of this trip and us being able to return is I think God, each time we've gone, has peeled back another layer, allowed us to dive deeper into the lives of these children, the lives of their families, and even just as importantly, the lives of the tutors and the pastors and their families. And you see the struggles and you see the poverty and just what they're dealing with, but you also get to see the joy and the beauty and the smiles of those kids.
So as I prepared to enter into the mission field for the very first time, I fought very difficulties in my mindset of, was I ready enough? Was I worthy? I had to trust so much more earnestly with my finances, with my life, with everything that I had going on, because a lot of things were out of my control and what I could do. And so I had to lean into what God was calling me to, knowing that He would provide the things for the mission that He called me to.
I did get a bit of a pushback from my family because they thought it was kind of crazy to go on a 2-week mission trip. The biggest challenge for me was I have a son. He is 16 years old and he is on the autism spectrum. And so it was a challenge to find people to come in to spend the 2 weeks with him in our home. And every day leading up to me going on the mission trip, he actually prayed. He prayed for me, he prayed for the team, and he was excited for me to go on the mission trip and to spread the gospel. Later on in the trip, I did have an opportunity to speak with a father whose son was diagnosed with autism. Some of the terms that he have never heard, I was able to kind of speak and kind of let them know that my son was once nonverbal, and now that he's verbal, he is able to be a bit independent and kind of just give that family hope that God is still a living God and He is still working miracles.
Having experienced a lot of different mission trips, I want to say that if you're an older person, I realize that oftentimes there can be medical problems. Like I say, I've got a pacemaker, but so what? That's not something that's going to stop me from going on mission trips, because it gives me purpose, because I love God. And everyone who claims to be a Christian really has a duty to take the Word of God out to whoever is out there. But you can always support missions financially or in other ways.
Saying yes to be willing to sacrifice the things that you're comfortable with comes at a price, and sometimes that's what makes us hesitant in stepping into what the Lord has called us to. Whether it is, am I willing to give this up? Am I willing to sacrifice this time? The Lord will use that time to do so much more than you ever could in those moments. Either way, whichever one you decide, there's going to be 2 risks on the podium. Whether you decide to be obedient and stepping into what the Lord has called you to, or whether you decide to be disobedient and miss out what the Lord has called you to. I've chosen to risk and be obedient unto the Lord, and I've seen the fruit and the fruit that comes out of the obedience of listening to the Father.
Fear and anxiety, significant fear and anxiety. It's my first time going out the country ever. I'd never set foot outside the U.S. I'd never been in a country that's primarily Islamic either. And I know where I was going in Southeast Asia, seafood was a primary delicacy of just the place I was going. It was a very nerve-wracking, just in terms of physical health, of if I should go or not. I had reactions to things like tilapia, catfish, just seafood in general. And so while I was there for 2 weeks, this was their life. Ultimately, I could have said no, and I think I had a fair reason to say no if I did. I think ultimately I did not want to not go out of fear. My trust in the Lord was very much strengthened in this time. And even today, I think I wouldn't be the same person that I would have been beforehand.
I mean, this mission trip wasn't like anything I'd ever been on before. Almost every day we would wake up early. We drove like an hour through mountains, and it was crazy, through like jungles. And we would do that every day to get to our job site, and then we'd spend a full 8 hours there every day rebuilding this one lady's house. The whole top of her house had been ripped off by a hurricane just maybe a year before. I mean, it was a mindset thing where I realized this isn't like a task that we have to do. It's not a job. It's really a privilege I get. It was monumental in my life. I was able to meet God in such a powerful way that I maybe couldn't have if I stayed home on my couch. But I trusted God. I trusted Him when He says that He will be with me when I go, when He tells me to go to the nations. And so I went, and I can tell you, I'm super glad I went.
I think choosing to go has impacted my relationship with the Lord in very tangibly learning, like having to trust Him. Even just deciding to go long term is kind of forsaking my own timeline with my life. I had, just the American dream kind of in my mind of what I wanted, even like recognizing that the reason why I would have stayed is because of the idols I was holding on to here in the States. The Lord wasn't like giving me like an audible voice, but He was just giving me peace. And He kept bringing up the question, why not? Life here is only a second in the span of eternity. And so why would I choose to live my life like building my own kingdom here on this earth when He's asked me to work for His kingdom? And that looks so backwards than what the world will tell you. Even with my own family personally, like saying goodbye to them for 2 years and not knowing what life will look like when I return.